as well share it here. So here we go. The main thing I imagine is what lever are you going to be using, how are you going to get the tool in effect, and those questions could come up because people could be using leather from an old sofa, leather from old car seats or whatever. What I'm using is veg tan leather, quite thick. This allows me to make it more formable by making it damp. So I think the term is case the leather. What it basically means is you make it wet, and then when you hit it or press it, it deforms more easily, and then once dried, it stays there. So if you'd bent it and it was wet, it would stay in that sort of shape. If you'd tooled it, like hit it down with a tool, it would stay down. That's why we use this leather. If you used sort of chrome tan stuff from a three-piece suite, it's great for making book covers or whatever. Still very strong, but it's not going to give you the opportunity to do all the tooling I'm going to show you here. So I'm going to move the camera down and then walk you through and mention the tools I'm using, so you can pick up a few ideas. So see you in a minute. I'll just move the camera down a bit lower. Okay, welcome back. I'm using for a sort of force return, a big slab of marble. So you want something that's hard to give a sort of hit back return from the tools that you're using. Metal can be used if you think about it as terms of mass, but we're using wet leather. So a big block of alley might work, but still obviously would mark the back of this as it gets wet, and as the steel reacts. So I imagine alley will work, but a big block of stone is 99% of what lever tool guys use is a lump of marble. Now the backgrounder tools I have, as opposed to what people could use, I don't use them very often. There's this sort of pear-shaped one with some hash marks on it. And even though these are quite similar, this one here has got a more defined, more cut in the pattern. I quite like that one, which is a sort of random, I don't know what the name of that is, but there's that one there. And this one's quite useful as well. This one, does it have a number? Craft tool M884. So if that's a sort of Tandy lever tool number, this one I get on quite well with. Even though it's large, you don't necessarily need to use the full pattern, because you can blend half of one mark into the next one, so it's not actually that large if you overlap the array that you're making when you're hitting things. So if I was going to use the ones here, I use the one with the slightly more defined crisscross. It's, as it hits, because it's domed, it's crowned, you get more of a depression in the middle of it. So you get like pear-shaped welts, but you can use it by turning it around to go around side into sort of like corners and things. So let's get me hammer, and if I just go like that, like that, like that, like that, like that, you'll see I've got 5 marks there. Now if you're clever, you'll step each one along as regular as you can, so you've got an even look to your tooling, and make a pattern with it. You're not going to make it look as if it's one beautiful seamless sort of pattern, because you get an individual wax and it's crowned, so you're going to be hitting in the middle harder than the outside. But what you can do then, as you wet it with a dauber, come on to that in a minute, those marks that I've made, let the water gradually soak into the leather. Not yet, not yet. Maybe now. You don't want too much surface water. It's settled in the trenches, so I've moved it away. Wait a minute. I could now, as I was that way on, I could turn it this way and fit the thin end of the pear and go back the other way. And then I could turn it around again and then herringbone and go back the other way. Then turn it around again and put the thin sort of triangular edge in the sort of V shapes that it's leaving behind. See, I hit 3 times as it's dried out and twice when it's quite wet, so I get an evenish sort of strike, and you've given yourself this sort of inverse crocodile effect here, and you've turned what was a sort of featureless looking thing into a pattern just by being creative with it. And you could actually go around the outside. We'll get onto camouflaging in a minute. So you've got that sort of even look as it's gone up and down. So there's the pattern here that we're looking at. Again, see that there? That's too wet to too long. Let it soak in. I wouldn't say quite yet, maybe about now. And you can actually go around the outside using your pattern. Sort of frame it. You could go around the outside by doing everything in the same direction, pointing to the inside. So the tip of the pear shape. Framing it like that around the outside. You could go and go by going like that with the tool. And then if you're really clever, get a smaller one. Back over it. Oh look, you've almost made a butterfly. Okay, so you've been creative by using it in a pattern array and then using a slightly different tool to do patterns on itself. So create a butterfly. Now, what the chap was inquiring around was using the background tool and go into an edge. So what would have happened was you'd have had an edge. So now I've used creasers before, but I actually get on far better by using a groover. It does remove the tough front layer of the leather. But there now is a groove, and what it would get now is your pricking irons. I won't hit it now because it's on stone, but there's your holes lowering the stitching. So what we're looking for is to tool whatever would be the sheath or the wallet or whatever up to almost that line. We're not going to go quite up to it, we're going to stop a few mil shy, as it were. So let's use this tool. Again, if that is the look of the tool, I'm going to lift it up and then move it across once I've hit it, and then hit it again, but I'm going to come over and start about there on the next tool, i.e. the next time it's struck. So you're moving it 70 to 80% the coverage of what that head is. So if that is the mark it makes, and next door up against it touching leaves that, there's the tooling mark, there's what it leaves. You then end up with gaps. Now you can rearrange and move, but what I prefer to do is you hit that, you lift it up, and you slightly cover the previous pattern. Okay, you've moved it less distance in the actual area that the thing covers, and then make sure that you keep it facing the same way. So that's the way that the pattern is, and then checkerboard it so you've gone every other position. So you go in between, alternating between how the tooling pattern is arranged, so it gets a good overlap. So if you did position 2, 4, 6 and 8, now you're doing 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. So you've got a neat pattern like that. Now I'm going to do one more pass, and it's not quite intended to go right up to the groove. Not quite up to the groove. I'm just going to make it slightly damp again. No need to go crazy on the water once it's been wetted or cased a few times already. So wait for it, not yet. Something like that. Now I need to find the right pattern again. That's where it was. So I've gone just about up to the line, but there's these awkward bits here. Now this is what the camouflage tool, the idea to being that you're going to cover up all those ragged edges, those rough areas that you haven't tooled completely with a camouflage tool. Camouflage tool being, I call them seashells, a seashell shape. All right, these here, and you get ones that have a flat head like that allow you to go along straight edges, and you get these ones here that are crescent shaped. I actually prefer the smaller pattern because it gives you more scope as you're going along to match the pattern up if you're only using sort of 8mm steps as opposed to big 12mm steps, there's more chance you're not quite going to get the spacings correct to come into V's and corners. And all we're going to do here is, as it goes in, where that V is, and you've made a mark, you lift it up and you put that, okay, there's the mark it's made in the lever, which is my finger, clay, and you put where that edge was, now you put that edge in there, and then you lift it up, you put that edge in there, and you go all the way around the outside of your lever using the camouflage tool. Now if you're really clever, you can match it to the size of your stitching so it doesn't look all staggered, but yeah, you'd have to figure out your size of your sheath, how many spacings you have on your pricking irons, so you can actually get the scallop shapes matching your stitching holes. One of the main reasons I don't do it, but so that goes there, that goes there, that goes there, goes there, goes there. So that all around the edges you've caught the previous left hand side of the fan and you hit it with the right hand side as you're moving along. So now your tool would go there, catching nothing, and then as you go along all the way around. That's the beauty of those. When you're hitting it down, if you hit it down in one straight sort of action, if the head is domed, you're going to get a different depth with the impression that you've made. I actually prefer to ever so slightly. To give a really nice clean look. And when you come to the corner, you've actually got to walk it around the corner as well. So that it creeps around the corner like that. Now one thing I did notice on it was a Robert Radcliffe, really nice one. He came to a V. He actually timed his steps so that each fan, when it finished up at the bottom, whereas there was a tool, it kind of finished. It kind of finished like this. I.e., you didn't end up at the bottom of a V of a sheath on a line groove. He actually timed it just right. All right, so that's something to be thinking about. But that's what the camouflage tool is there. Now that has only worked because I made my life easy by using a small head tool that's quite random. So when we come to this bit here, I'll use a big head, but I'll show you what I do with the pattern in order to make it sort of vaguely blend. So that's using this big one here. Again, case the lever. Okay, wait for it. Something like that time for waiting. Now this is a very quick pattern. It's sort of a ray skin effect. Again, hit, and then at a point where the two are here, I've hit the gap in the middle. So as the two spaces are like this, I'm hitting there now. And keep going up to the edge. Now sometimes on a head that big, you can man up to something a little bit heavier, but you're not bludgeoning it to death. I actually hold the head like this. This could only be the head I'm holding, no handle on it whatsoever. I'm just using it as a strike weight. Okay, it's got more weight than that. There's a bigger head. So see, I'm rotating the head. Now, as I'm going near the edge, I'm now only going to be bothering with one end of the tool. So it's coming down, but I'm only using a rounded head like that in the lever, hitting down like that in the lever, not flat. And I'm getting near the edge, I don't need the full size of the head. I'm only using that as I'm coming up towards the edge. And it will, on this nice random sort of head, it will blend quite nicely. And if I wanted to, so those strikes, I've not used the full size of the head near the edge. I've only used about a third of it because I've angled it over. And then of course then you can use a different one, just so you can see the same. So I'm using this one now. Now when it comes to thinner lever tools, striking tools, hitting like that, they might have a tendency to bend. So what I'm going to do is case the lever, so I haven't got to hit it quite so hard. I've got a few cheap ones. You generally want to get them thick like that. The cheap ones you buy, find a cheap one. Okay, that's already bent. See, it's bent. It can't take all the amount of whack that a big thick one can. So now that I've used the large headed tool, but only half of it, there is enough tooling to the edge that the camouflagey sort of famine swirl, for those who do Artex, on the ceilings. I give a nice big impression on those now. So I'm rotating the head to give a nice definite and then you end up, because you've deformed the lever, you've risen a wave of squished lever up, and so you get a nice transition from the tooling to the camouflage around the outside. That makes sense. There we go. So I hope that helps. So whatever tooling you have, make sure that you're either using it in a way that's regular or so random you can't tell one hit from another, or as I say, it's regular so you can tell it's got a nice neat array. You go around the outside with the camouflage tool because you're hitting where every other one is missed, and so you've got a bit of a gap, but it doesn't matter because the camouflage tool is camouflaging it. And when you come up to bits like this where you've got a really large head, you only use half of the head or a third of the head because you've used a rounded one. That makes sense. So I hope that helps. Got what's explained out. Loads of other tips and tricks videos. There should be a link there and there if I'm clever enough to animate it in our correct position. And other outdoor reviews as well. Scott Whiskey's Plays Out. Thanks for joining me.